BBC Radio York.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night Sport, and it's the second of a new show where we'll be concentrating on grassroots sport and celebrating all that's good at that level in North Yorkshire. We'll be doing this on the weeks where we haven't got commentary of either York City or Harrogate Town to bring you, and if you want to get involved with your team or tell us about your sport or tell us about someone who's done something special at your club, whether that be as part of the sport or behind the scenes, we want to hear from you. You can get in touch with us either on Twitter at BBC York Sport or email us at northyorkshire.sport@bbc.co.uk. And tonight we're finding out about a relatively new sport that was born here in North Yorkshire.
BBC Radio York.
So good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night Sport here on BBC Radio York. It's a grassroots week, and tonight, as I've mentioned, we're looking at a relatively new sport. It's been around a while. You may have heard of it, particularly if you've heard BBC Radio York over the years. It was born here in North Yorkshire and it's called VX. And with us, pleased to say, is one of the founders of the sport, Paul Hildreth. Good evening, Paul.
Hello.
And thanks for joining us this evening as well. Let's start off at the absolute basic level. VX, what on earth is it?
We say the recipe is a pinch of pelota, a little lacrosse, a hint of hockey and a dash of dodgeball. And some people can see a sous-son shinty as well.
Right. Pelota, what's that to start with?
It's a basket game where they have a big basket on their hands and they hurl the ball at the wall and catch it. And as the ball comes out with this scoop, it handles just like that.
So it's a combination of all those that you've just mentioned, and how does that then manifest itself?
Right, OK. VX, 2 teams of 5 in a sports hall. No goals, no zones, no markings, no targets. You can go anywhere you like. So unlike dodgeball, you're not stuck in 2 halves. And you score points by hitting opponents with balls. Now, these are low-pressure tennis balls. In Middlesbrough, they use cricket balls. And target area is shoulders to feet, 1 point for hit. If your opponent catches your shot, it's 2 points. But you can go anywhere, so I could be as close to you as I am now. And that's it. You can go anywhere, 4 quarters of 4 minutes. It's enough. We also have singles, which is played in the squash court. That's intense, personal, gladiatorial. Much more fun for me. I prefer it that one. We've got 1v1v1, and we've got doubles as well.
It almost sounds a bit complicated. When you're playing it, is it that difficult to get a grip of what's happening?
No, it is the simplest sport there is. Hit your opponents more times than they hit you.
You've brought in a stick. It sounds like I'm confused, and I'm probably not as confused as what I sound. But you've brought in one of the sticks that you play with, and it looks like, as you mentioned, lacrosse. It looks like a lacrosse stick, but you've got the scoop, if that's what you want to call it, at either end. It's not as simple as just running with it. There's a little bit more in skill involved because of that, isn't it?
Yeah. As you're travelling, like in basketball, you have to dribble. In VX, you have to dribble. And to do that, you're rocking the ball from one end to the other. That's all there is to it. But you don't make beginners dribble. If you do, it just kills it. All right? What we want from beginners is run around, just eye the ball at each other and have fun. When they get better, then you introduce the dribble.
And the stick that you've got, I'm guessing it's quite lightweight. It's what, about 3 foot long with what looks like, the best way I can describe it other than the lacrosse thing is a face guard for American football.
Yeah, it does look like that. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's an engineering polymer. It's not net, unlike lacrosse. But yeah, use that for either end for catching, use it for dribbling, use it for firing. But it really is simple. It is the simplest sport there is.
I've seen bits of it. If anybody is interested, you can see bits and pieces online, can't you,
yeah.
of what it looks like. It would be quite hard to imagine, I think, quite how a full game with 10 players on a court would look.
But this is what we find. When you talk to people about it, they think, oh yeah, that sounds good. Then when they see it, then they start to realise. Then when they try it, then that's when you see the light bulbs go on.
Why? Why did you invent it? As I've mentioned, it's a relatively new sport. I mean, just tell us how long it's been around for, but how did this idea, how was it born?
It was a misunderstanding.
Really?
Yeah. I had a not very successful technology transfer company, which is helping people bring innovative products to new markets. And one of my clients rang me up one day and he said, what do you think to this? And he described what he was holding in his hands, and I got totally the wrong end of the stick, and no pun intended, and just envisaged people running around, pulling triggers, firing tennis balls at each other like paintball, but with tennis balls. Then when we saw what he'd got, it was nothing like that. But we'd got the idea of firing balls at each other. And so we redesigned what he'd got, slimmed it down. We took it to a company in Wetherby to help. And this is what the result was. And then it was trialled through schools and evolved from there. It was launched in 2006. And since then, it's just grown and grown and grown.
We'll talk about the growth a little bit later, but starting a new club in any sport is one thing, but you've started a brand new sport. Why? Did you feel there was a gap in the market or something for it?
I don't know. I have to say, though, that nothing I've ever done in my life, absolutely nothing, has the impact that this has. All the clubs that we've got, they've all got a family unit, like mother and son, mother and daughter, father and son, father. I mean, one lass is in my club. She plays, and all of 3 daughters play. One's in the RAF. She plays in the RAF now. York has got father and son, and a mother and daughter. All of these clubs have got family units. We've got people who are very sporty. It attracts them, but it also attracts the people that do know the sport at all. Just imagine the kid, not very sporty, playing football, ball lands at his feet, and all the other kids shout, "Pass and shoot," so he does. And they're shouting at him again. Well, with this, because there's 5 balls in play, I didn't mention that, did I?
No, you didn't.
Because there's 5 balls in play, he can pick up that one, get behind the superstar and score the point. The focus isn't on him.
I'm still interested to know how this idea developed from what you thought was sort of like paintball with tennis balls into what it's developed into now. The fact you've got 5 balls going on. What dark corner of your mind exists to think this up?
It was evolution, and like I said, there was 3 of us involved. And if any one of the 3 of us had been missing, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. So basically, it was brains coming together, and this was what the result was.
It was a perfect example of serendipity.
Okay.
I had to look that up before I came.
So you've got your sports. What was the next step?
Well, at the time, there was partnership development there were school sports partnerships. So we launched it at the Sports Colleges Conference in Telford with the Youth Sport Trust. And, of course, each SSP had a partnership development manager. They had a brief and they had a budget. And they took one look at this and it ticked all their boxes. So it just whipped through all the schools. 2013, of course, we had a bit of a downturn, a few difficult years, and when we came back in 2013, all of those SSPs had disappeared, so we had to start from scratch with all our market being wiped out. But we're getting there. It's just a long, slow haul now.
People might be more familiar with this rather than VX as Rocket Ball, because that was how it originally started, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was launched as Rocket Ball, and it was Rocket Ball until 2012.
And that was because, like you've mentioned, you're rocking the ball between the 2 ends. So why VX now? Because
of the international growth. It was just spreading so much internationally. We needed something that would translate a bit better than Rocket Ball.
And it has, hasn't it? It has gone far and wide so far, hasn't it? And you say that this, you're getting there. You're gradually getting back to where you were before the rough few years you had with it. But it is going abroad now as well. This, isn't it?
Yeah. We have a singles World Cup every year. And we have a Team World Cup every 4 years. Now, last year, for the first time, the V2, that's the Singles World Cup, was outside UK. It was in Italy. This year, it was in India. Next year, it's back in the UK. The year after, it's Hong Kong. Next week, we're shipping some equipment out to Germany for the first time. Australia just recently got some equipment. There's a radio show over there very heavily into VX. And they're hoping to get to the World Cup in 2020.
Wow. On a more practical level, and so say, see the stick in front of you, how do you get that through customs?
Dismantle it.
Is it really? So it comes apart?
Dismantle it, it fits in a suitcase.
Brilliant, good. I'm glad to hear that. That could have been seen as a dangerous weapon otherwise, looking at it just laid on the desk.
It's now called a V-Sticks. In the days of Rocket Ball, it was called a rocket.
Right.
So that was interesting going through. What have we got in the bag, sir? Rockets. Step this way, please.
We'll talk a bit more in a bit, Paul, and find out quite how the sport started to take off. You mentioned about the schools' partnerships, but obviously I'm guessing it possibly took a little bit of time to convince people that your idea could take off in schools. We'll talk a little bit more. It's Tuesday Night Sport here on BBC Radio York. My guest this evening is Paul Hildreth, one of the founders of the sport VX. This is David Bowie. David Bowie, Let's Dance. BBC Radio York, Tuesday Night Sport. Paul Hildreth with us in the studio this week. VX is a sport that we're looking at. We're taking a regular look on a Tuesday evening when there's no commentary for York City or Harrogate Town about various sports across the county, certainly at grassroots level and further afield as well. So VX, Paul, you were one of the founders of this sport. We've talked about how the idea was born. We've also mentioned as well about how it takes time to convince people when you've got a new idea about anything to get going. It sounds like schools are more interested than anybody to start with.
Oh, that's where it started. It went through all the schools. Well, not through all schools. It went through the schools really well when there was the school sports partnerships. So to talk to 40 schools, we used to have to talk to one person, the PDM. Now to talk to 40 schools, we have to talk to 40 people who don't have a budget anymore and are snowed under, don't have the time. So it's harder. But now it is starting to go through, are you ready? Colleges, leisure centres, universities, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Guards, Cadets, Scouts, and yes, I did say prisons.
It's almost a bit of a theme, probably isn't the right thing, because I would never liken schools to prison. Well, you might do as a pupil, school to a prison, I don't know. But it's almost a bit of a theme of organisations that are taking this on board.
Maybe, yeah. The prisons, one of our players was a literacy tutor in a prison, so she got us in there. And what we found out was they like it because it's a controlled release of aggression in a safe environment. And we were in there once, and this great big guy came in. He was 6'3" across the shoulders, and he had a face like thunder. And when he went out, he was grinning from ear to ear. And he actually wrote on the feedback form he was feeling peaceful. Just took the aggression out of him. Yeah. Scouts are great. They just jump in with anything. So we do it with Gilwell 24, which is where it's down at Gilwell Park, and they have to run 24 hours. 9 o'clock Saturday to 9 o'clock Sunday, and we are one of the few activities that just does run for the full 24 hours, and the Scouts just love it. So now we are starting to get into Scout troops and Cubs and other youth groups. The Air Cadets up here, they did really well with it. We had our first Tri-Services Championships at Christmas as well.
Really?
Yeah, because as our players grew up and got to university, I'll go in the forces. We have Pip Fowles in the RAF, Dan Raper in the Navy, and Josh Darry in the Army, as well as some others. And we managed to get some of them together in one place at one time. So at our first Tri-Services Championships, the Navy won.
It's almost ambassadorial then, is it? The players that you've got that maybe were there at the start for the first players you got coming through, whatever age group, as they've grown up and gone onwards. Do you find that they've almost like taken the word of VX with them? Yeah,
this is why some of the universities are getting started, because as we get players going to university, it's not easy to set up a club at university. You've got to get so many players and a minimum number of players. So we've got the singles, which is growing the sport, because all you need is 2 mates. 2 sticks, 3 balls and a squash court. And so they can do that informally, and then as people see it, because it's when people see it they get intrigued and want to try it. And of course it's mixed, so they see males and females playing on an equal footing. So that's what's driving it.
How widespread are the clubs? It sounds like you've got it with schools going on and colleges and every other organisation you just mentioned. But as far as the individual clubs go, like we had Helen Mackenzie last week from Ripon City Netball, there's netball clubs all over the show, like there are football clubs. How easy is it to get a VX club started, and where do you play?
It's difficult. I nearly swore there. So, for example, you move into a new area, you advertise, I'm starting up a football club, you'll get mobbed. Everybody knows football. You go into a new area, I'm setting up a VX club. You
what? Yeah.
What the hell is that? So for our volunteers, and this sport runs on volunteers, even me, I'm full-time and I'm a volunteer. Every single person is a volunteer, and they're absolute diamonds. So it's harder for them. It is so much harder because they've got to work so much harder and battle so much harder to get something off the ground and running. Most of the clubs around here are in this area. However, they're spreading. We've just got our first regional association in West Midlands, so there's a couple of clubs there. We've got a guy setting up another regional association, VX South. There's the North West, where VX England are based. Should be a club starting there soon. North East, there's a guy up there. And then suddenly, there's the Scunthorpe VX Club, so hopefully we'll have a link from Scunthorpe right up through here, North East, and up into the borders.
You must really believe in this as a sport, because it's not easy, is it? No,
it's not. I say again, nothing I've ever done in my life has the impact that this has.
Wow. And what impact?
The BBC, actually, your mates in the World Service came and had a look at it, and their piece, they titled it "The Best Sport You've Never Heard of."
Really?
So we use that.
And what is the impact that you sort of see on the people that take part?
People that don't do any other sport. having success at this. Even, I can't do that. I've got no hand-eye coordination. We teach them to pick up and throw. That's all they need to start with, and they're away. Got a lovely letter from one mum. One lad was in our club. He joined us at 5, and he was with us right through until he moved away to another school at 13, I think he was then. And we were on our way down to Scunthorpe to a match there, and Mum was in the minibus with us, and she said that this bairn had been diagnosed as dyslexic and dyspraxic and was scoring really low on one of the scales. And he'd tried football, lasted 2 weeks. He'd tried cricket, lasted 1 day. And he was with us for 8 years.
Wow.
And he got himself ready, and he was saying, it's racquetball ball tonight, because it was at the time.
Yeah.
And he came week in, week out. He won medals with the club. He got runners-up medals in competition. And this is what it can do for people. It helps increase participation. And it's fun as well. That's the most important thing.
That's the beauty of sport, though, isn't it? That you can find that niche that you maybe haven't got anywhere else in life. And it is fun, and you get that aggression out sometimes as well. You mentioned about the prisoner. That's probably relevant to day-to-day adult life, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And
schoolwork as well, I would have thought. Going through exams and whatnot, that outlet of a sport.
Yeah, we kids are revising for exams, and they plan it, and they still come to the sessions. And I just love the people we've got involved. They're fantastic.
How popular is it then in North Yorkshire?
Growing all the time. We've got the clubs, we've got leagues, we've got competitions, we've got the singles leagues and the team leagues. We've got, like I say, we've got all ages. So our youngest player is 5, our oldest is 73, and that's not me.
I never said anything.
I saw you look. And it's totally mixed, male and female. We have, at the World Cup, in the V2 World Cup, we've got youth category, senior category and masters category. That's 40 plus. It used to be called the old farts category, but once the girls started playing, we couldn't call it that. Having said that, I think they lie about their age to get in there. I'm sure they're only 35.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll love you for saying that as well. We've mentioned as well about how it's gone further than this country. We'll chat more about that after we just had another break for some music. But that in itself, briefly tell us to start with, how hard has it been getting it out of North Yorkshire?
It's been easier getting it abroad than it has been getting it out of North Yorkshire into their areas of the UK.
We'll ask you why in a few moments' time. Paul Hildreth from the Sport of VX joining us this evening on BBC Radio York. Tuesday Night Sport. This is Maroon 5. At grassroots sport across the county. Tonight is a sport that you may have heard of, you may not have heard of, you may know of it as something else. VX is what we're talking this evening with Paul Hildreth, one of the founders of the sport, formerly known as racquetball. Plenty of clubs in North Yorkshire, starting to spread out of North Yorkshire. And you've not done anything by halves, really, have you, Paul? When we say it's starting to spread outside of North Yorkshire, India is one of the countries that this sport's growing in, isn't it?
India, they're fantastic, the Indians. We had quite... To get abroad, we do it in 2 ways. Either we pick up on a contact we've already got, or people will contact us. Like Hong Kong came across because somebody contacted us. We had a call from Spain last week. Somebody wanted to take it to Spain. We get a lot of contacts from some third world countries, and we want to be careful because it's people just trying to, I want to bring your sport to my country, I want to come to you to get trained, and so we've got to be very careful. However, this guy from India contacted us about 4 years ago, and so we went through it all with him, and I went across to get them started. Absolutely superb what they've done. So I went across for the World Cup last week, my 4th visit. 2 years ago we went there for the first test match series, and their hospitality is absolutely wonderful. And what they've done for this World Cup, they did what nobody else has managed to do. They'd got about 8 sponsors. They provided accommodation, subsistence for all the players and participants. The press coverage was unbelievable. The promotion was absolutely fantastic. They've really gone for it. And the difference in the players from when we were there 2 years ago, absolutely amazing. They came within a whisker of getting their first world champion.
I'm guessing the current world champion's English, British.
Yeah. In the youth, it's Oliver Stocks. Now, what this last World Cup did for us was it changed the face of VX. Absolutely changed it. It proved just how international it's becoming, and how many opportunities there are. This is what we say, VX gives opportunities. But it changed the face of VX. Okay, in the youth, we weren't just playing against our opponents, who are much better than they were, but we were playing against the heat and the humidity. Now, Oliver Stocks, he was there, and his mum was there competing in the Masters. She's one of the ones that lies about her age. And Oliver was thrown in his first match against AJ Singh, who's a cracking player, absolutely cracking player. And it was only his experience that won him that game. This was a group match, so if he'd lost, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. But clock was counting down. In the second half, you could see Oliver visibly wilt. He went down like a deflating balloon. And yeah, the referee's shouting the scores out, and the clock is counting down. And it got to 5 seconds, and it was all square. And Oliver had a ball, and AJ didn't. And everybody's shouting outside, shoot, shoot, and he didn't. He didn't. Clock goes down 5, 4, 3, and then Oliver shot. Hit. His opponent didn't get a chance to fire back. Got the win by 1 point. And he went through then the rest of the group matches, got through the knockout stage into the final, where he met Parminder Singh, who was probably their top youth player. And again, second half, Oliver was down by about 8 points. But then he took a couple of quick catches, and he won by only 2 points. That's how close it is. And Oliver is a very, very, very good player. He deserves to be world champion. And but it was only 2 points. That's how close India are getting.
I'll come back onto the way it's spreading in India, but haven't the British players got an advantage because they've been there from the conception?
Not all of them have. People grow up, they move away, and we're getting new players coming in all the time. But yes, this is why England is at the top at the moment. This is why England is leading. So at the moment, we hold the Youth World Cup, we hold the Senior World Cup, we won the Test Match Series, we hold the European Cup, and we've got world champions at Youth, Senior and Masters. But, like I say, at Youth it was only by 2 points. And in the semi-finals of the Senior match, there was a Ugandan, an Indian and 2 English. This shows how much more international it's becoming. Last year, the Italians at the European Championships, they shocked us. These are the countries that are really coming up fast.
In India, how popular is it then?
Again, it's growing. It's right in the north.
Sort of regionalised.
Yeah, it's in the Punjab at the moment. Yeah. That's where it's centred. Because that's where it got started. Yeah. But there are now other states now wanting to get involved and getting in touch with us, and then we pass them on to Suman in India, and he picks up from there.
So where else is it played?
Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. They've only just got it this year, but they had players at the World Cup, and they're really moving up fast. Italy, like I say, there's some in Germany, a couple of players in Sweden, Switzerland, Hungary, Australia. When I think now, we had inquiries from Iceland recently.
When I've looked at
Uganda, Uganda, Kenya,
there. When I've looked at the list of world ranked players, obviously dominated by English players, as you mentioned, quite a few Danes in there as well, and 1 American. Yeah. But then you've told me as well that they don't play it in America. So how does that work?
Well, like I say, that the singles is what's driving the sport. And it is doing here as well. People used to say, this is fantastic. Where's my nearest club? Well, there isn't one near you. I'll start one. How do I do it? Well, you need 300 quid's worth of kit. You need 12 people. You need to hire a sports or forget it. Yeah. Now, where's my nearest club? There isn't one. I'll start one. How do I do it? Well, you need 2 mates, 2 V-sticks, 3 balls, hire a squash court, £5, 40 minutes? Right, it's doable. And that's how it's starting in the States. Just submit a couple of individuals.
Right, and going from there. And I guess if that gets into the collegiate system, that's really potentially could take off, could it?
Yeah, that's the thing with the States, in that a lot of them won't play dodgeball because they don't like the idea of throwing balls at each other. They talk about headshots. Oh, we don't like that. I was
going to say, is it throwing or being hit that's not the...
And yet this, I've actually written a document for them because this is different. The 4 cornerstones of the sport are honesty, integrity, sportsmanship and respect. And if they see somebody's being bullied with this, well, the coach is getting it wrong. That isn't what this is about. So this is not dodgeball, and it is not what they're frightened of in the States. And that's just something else we have to persuade them about. New Zealand was the one that was interesting. I had a friend took some down to New Zealand because we either get it abroad through a contact that we've got or somebody contacting us. Now, Janet took it down there. She took 8 sticks down and took it into a school, and there was all this throwing balls at each other. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not sure we could do that. And this was the country that bred Jonah Lomu. Yeah.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. What about yourself? Obviously, as one of the founders, and you're out there spreading the word. I know you travel quite a bit with this, but you said at the start this evening that you're just a volunteer still. How do you find the time? How does things work in life for you with VX?
Well, I do this full time. I do nothing else. This is what I do. We live off my wife's money. She retires next year. So what we do then, I don't know. But I can't retire. I'm going to be working till the lunchtime on the day of my funeral, I think. But yeah, it's full time. And even then, there aren't enough hours in the day because as it grows, there is just so much more to do. And I've got people help me. We have volunteers, but we always need more. We need more players, volunteers. We need people with vision. Sponsors, investors, whatever. This is just on the verge of really exploding.
So you've mentioned about, obviously, in North Yorkshire, there are clubs in North Yorkshire. How much would you like to see it grow throughout, though, break out of the county even further than the clubs you've already got elsewhere? Desperate
to see it. This is why I'm so pleased that the guys in Worcester, again, somebody saw it on the internet. This is a guy that's really proactive, a guy called Mark Kings, very proactive. Highly professional, and he's got it sorted down there, and this is in a new area. So he did a social media marketing campaign using the BBC strapline, best sport you've never heard of, set up a club, and they're actually now representing that region at the national finals in a couple of weeks.
You put in work into getting it abroad, obviously, as well. Yeah. How much work do you feel it will need, though, to really make it take off in Britain?
I think once it flies abroad, Britain will wake up. If I can give an example, my wife's a teacher. She's at a York school, and when it was Rocket Ball, she was hammering the head of PE. You ought to try this. You ought to try this. You ought to try. Yeah. And we went down to do a training course right in the south coast, Devon, somewhere like that. And the following week, on the Monday, he came to find her. He said, I've just been to a wedding reception for an old university mate. There's another guy from university. They said, I've just been on a training course. It's a fantastic sport. You really should try it. And it was this. But it needed him to be told from Devon about something that was on his doorstep.
So how do people get started in this as a player?
Just rock up to one of your local clubs. They're very friendly, very welcoming. Or give us a shout. We can help.
And you've mentioned the age range as well, from schools right through to the 70-year-olds that play as well. Is it the same version of the sport right the way through? Does it need adapting at all?
It's the same version. We don't do walking football. It's the same version. And you can play at your own speed. The versions that are driving it are the V2, the singles, and the VX, the team. The doubles and the V1 and the V3, which is 1v, 1v1 there. We don't do much with those. We've got enough to cope with all the competition on the others. But yeah, it's the same version. Wheelchairs need a bit of adapting. You do the disability side of it as well then? Oh yeah, wow. Absolutely. Our patron is a wonderful guy called Phil Sheridan, and he's a low limb amputee, and he got involved because of the inclusivity of this. It is so accessible to people with such a wide range of physical and cognitive impairments. I'm going to ask a question now that you probably can't answer. Why hasn't this taken off any further than what it already has done? I don't know. I think I'm delighted at how far it has gone. Yeah. And I look around and I see stuff happening that I have absolutely nothing to do with. See, the tournaments in Hong Kong, that's nothing to do with me. Yeah. And this is fantastic. It's like your child growing up, and you've got to let it go as it walks out the door. But we just need that break, I think. Or somebody with vision, because we're such a small team and there aren't any hours in the day, we need somebody with vision and the contacts or whatever to get involved. But it's happening more and more doors are opening. It's a matter of time. It's a numbers game. Do you think it's helping as well, if you're saying about it's the VX and the singles particularly that's driving it, so it's the singles and the team game, almost paring it down a little bit and concentrating on those two versions of it rather than the one where you've got three people on court and the doubles. Is that helping to sort of almost focus it and spearhead trying to take it forward? Well, we haven't sidelined those. No. We have them, we just haven't got any formal competition on those. We have a Quidditch version as well. But that's just for a bit of fun. No competition. That's not one of our formal versions. It's just a bit of fun, but it works. That sounds like a separate conversation altogether. The Quidditch version of it. Yeah. So we're sticking with the VX and the V2 because can't cope with anymore.
Okay. Well, we'll ask you a bit more about the North Yorkshire clubs in a few moments' time. If people want to get interested, what it takes to become a VX player at any level. But obviously, like I say, it's quite strong in North Yorkshire and some good clubs as well. You're listening to BBC Radio York. It's Tuesday Night Sport, 22/8. Paul Hildreth with us this evening, our guest, about VX, the sport he founded, and certainly trying to rocket across the world, pardon the pun, from the former name of Rocket Ball. This is Tony Braxton. Tony Braxton, Unbreak My Heart. I wasn't expecting that little ding at the end there. That caught me out. 8:15 is the time. It's Tuesday Night Sport on BBC Radio York. Looking at grassroots sport across North Yorkshire in this hour, concentrating on the sport of VX that was born in North Yorkshire. Paul Hildreth, one of the men who had the idea and brought it to fruition, joining us in the studio this evening. We've mentioned Paul, obviously, born in North Yorkshire, plenty of clubs in North Yorkshire. York, Easingwold, Ripon.
Stillington, Northallerton. Am I missing anybody? York, Easy Rockets, Northallerton, Stillington, Ripon.
And how big are these clubs individually?
Easy Rockets contracted a bit because we moved from Easingwold out to Crake and Hewby, and so now we're building up again. Ripon is massive. It gets 30 to 40 kids every week. Northallerton's based around a squash court, so that's constantly growing. York is the team to beat at the moment. York are wiping the floor with everybody. Carl's done a really good job there. Stillington's a small club. It just focuses on the small-sided versions of the game. And
are these clubs in a league? Is there a VX league that we're not aware of to go with the sport? Is there a league we're not aware of as
Absolutely. Well, the lifeblood of sport is competition, so if you haven't got the competition, what have you got? Not everybody wants to play competitively. We have some players that just want to come to the Monday night session and play, recreationally. But we have a V2 league. We have district V2 leagues. They start in September and then go through to January, and the national finals will be in April. And yet the team leagues, they then start in January through to July.
And what's the commitment level like for these?
It's not high, to be honest. Some of the local district leagues get their V2, so the local V2 leagues get theirs done in club sessions, or they'll just book a Wednesday night on a squash court, something like that. The team leagues might be a Sunday afternoon. It's not high. And you do as much as you can or as much as you want.
And you mentioned as well about the games, you say 4-minute quarters?
A full VX game is you play 4 minutes, 1 minute break, 4 minutes, 2 minute break, 4 minutes, 1 minute break, 4 minutes. It's enough, believe me.
It sounds quite intense, does that? If it's as fast as the description is leading me to believe, that sounds almost like intensity training, doesn't it?
Helen explains it well when there's so much aerobic and anaerobic exercise in this. You're not playing 16 minutes in singles. You play 2 halves of 4 minutes. And that's enough.
It sounds nothing, really, does it? 8 minutes. It just doesn't sound like you're going to have time to even get started there, but clearly
it's fast. And the thing is, this is the beauty in schools. We don't do the full 16 minutes in schools. It's flexible. So depending on the size hall they've got, how many kids they've got, you will mix and match. But they come off, they have no idea how hard they've been working. But they're all involved. That's what the teachers love about it. They're all involved. And we can get kids playing, we can get anybody playing at a fast pace within 10 minutes. I mean, think of tennis. You've at least got to do the forehand before you can do more than pat a cake. We teach them how to pick up, throw, tell them the rules, and you play. Forget dribbling, just run about. And, okay, it looks like headless chickens, it's chaotic, it's individual, but they're all involved, they're all playing at a fast pace, and they have no idea how hard they're working. Okay, the better you get, the more you start to get tactics, structure, communication, discipline. Different kettle of fish.
Discipline's important in sport, isn't it? Especially when it comes to kids playing it.
Yes.
I read as well that it's low pressure and low impact when you're playing this sport, and that must be quite good on the joints as you get older, let's put it that way.
Now, low pressure, low impact, that's the ball you're referring to.
Right. It didn't say that when I read. Right, so it's not. So as you get older, physically, how does it affect you?
Well, I'm 59 going on 73, is what I would say. But I still play. Although I'll take this opportunity to announce I am going to resign from competitive V2.
Why?
When we started the Masters category 5 years ago, that very quickly became the fastest growing category. But my name's still the only one on the trophies. And it's not about me, it's about the sport and what's best for the sport.
Usually if anybody announces a retirement, it's like, oh, we're sorry to see you go. Here, have a cut glass vase. And I just went, why? Sorry. You probably deserve more recognition in your retirement for, starting the sport, but there you go. So.
Still going to play VX, still going to play in the district league, but when it comes to the national finals or the Europeans or the Masters or the World Cup, I'm not going to do that.
When anybody's looking to get involved in a sport for the first time, certainly speaking from my club at netball, and you've got ladies coming down that haven't really exercised much for years, perhaps, I know this is male and female, probably men the same thing, that want to get involved in a sport, never really taken to anything, not done much exercise for years. Is this a sport that can accommodate that?
Absolutely. You can play at your own pace. And the better you get, the more you grow into it. I mean, I told you before about the lass who, in my club, who's got 3 daughters playing. She started because middle daughter was in the Air Cadets and playing, so younger daughter wanted to play. So she brought younger daughter along. She's sitting in the corner reading her book, and I said to bring your trainers next week. She did, and she is now one of our best advocates for the sport. She's a fantastic volunteer, and after last year's World Cup, she was the second highest ranked woman in the world.
Wow, that's quite a climb, isn't it?
Yeah,
really,
just bringing
a daughter
she's
down.
the same age as me, but I think she's lying about her age as well.
Again, looking at it from an older side of things as well, clearly the kids love it because everybody wants to run around like you say, headless chickens when you're that sort of age. But as you get older, you've got tweaks and pains and aches. I'll ask about the impact then. If the ball's low pressure and low impact, what sort of impact does it have on your joints?
Well, do you know something? I'm 59, I've got the aches and pains, but when I get on the court and the adrenaline goes up, I just don't notice it.
It's that escape as well mentally, I guess, is it?
And I used to play squash and badminton, and I can't anymore because every time I try it, my elbow is so painful. I nearly said something else, but...
I'm glad you didn't, whatever it was.
With this, I don't have that problem.
I thought you were going to say knees. It was your knees that suffered from squash. Did they with this as well? Because I'm guessing there's a little bit of bending down, scooping the ball up.
You actually don't have to bend. Some of the guys, the younger ones, they pick the ball up so quick, and they go down, they bend down, and they pick it up and fire it before you can even see. But for the likes of me, there's a way of picking it up without even bending. It's just I don't get it into a shot as quick.
And is it an expensive sport to get involved with?
No. A V-Sticks there is £30, guaranteed for 3 years. There's an annual affiliation to the federation, which is £25-30, and then a weekly session fee for the clubs, something like £2.50, £3.
And if you were just turning up and fancied having a go, obviously the sticks might be relatively straightforward at, say £30 to buy one. But if you're just trying it out,
and the clubs have all got them.
That was it. Fine.
Yeah, the clubs have all got them. So the sticks there to borrow. You want, and a lot of people still use the club sticks. It's as they start to progress, then they want their own.
Yeah.
And at that point, we say you'd never lend it to anybody.
It's yours, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, if it's a club kit, it's in a bag. The end's maybe got a little bit bent. It doesn't, So I'm firing at you and hit the door over there. But the guys in the England squad, they want to know that if they're going to fire at that target, they're going to hit it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I would imagine that at that level as well, it really matters. If you are new then and fancy it, how do people find out where their nearest club is, and can you just, I want to say rock up, I've got rock in my head now from Rocketball, just turn up to a club to get involved? Yeah,
some of the clubs have got websites, most of them are on Facebook, or there are links. Actually, there are links to all the clubs on Wikipedia, or on vxinternational.com, or just contact us through there, and we'll point them in the right direction. All the clubs are really friendly. And
every club welcomes, I guess, any age group. If you are, I don't know, it seems that the top players, correct me if I'm wrong, the top players are very much at the younger end. I know you've got your Masters section as well that you've talked about for yourself. But if you are of a certain age that you're maybe not quite as fit as some of the others, are you still welcomed into the club and can still play in that team sport?
Oh yeah, all the clubs have got a wide range of ages and play at different paces. It used to be, what I love about this, one of the many things I love about this, is when it started, it was all teenagers in the sixth form age, and now the demographics have just gone total to the other extremes.
And that's got to be key, hasn't it, in spreading this sport and getting it further afield, because teenagers go off to universities and then you're looking to replenish, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's something for nearly everybody. I mean, getting hit by a ball isn't for everybody, but there's something for nearly everybody. I mean, Helen said it. She said, it's got the lot.
Mm. We talked as well about how to spread it, and I know you've said about the problem you've had with getting funding for this sport. It's a bit of a vicious circle you're in, isn't it?
Yeah, I think things have changed a little bit now, but certainly earlier on, we couldn't get any funding because we weren't Sport England recognised, like the Innovation in Sport grant. We weren't Sport England recognised, so we didn't qualify. But if we'd tweaked something of an existing sport, that would have counted.
But until you get that funding, it's going to be hard to grow to be in a position.
Yeah, it's all self-funded. Like I say, I don't get an income from it. Every penny we make just goes back into growing the sport.
Do you think one day you will be able to get that recognition from Sport England and really kick on?
Oh, we're working towards it, but it's not easy. But we are working towards it. But bear in mind, stool ball, 500 years old, only got it 5 years ago.
And it's not played widely either, is it, stool ball? Very much a southern corner sport, I think. I don't know quite how wide. We
actually had a real good day with them. We took our England Masters team down there, and they introduced us to stool ball, and we played their England team, and then their England team played our England Masters team at VX.
And for anybody that doesn't know stool ball, it's a separate kettle of fish. It's like crickety, roundersy type sport, isn't it?
It was the forerunner of cricket.
Yeah.
And we hope they're going to come up to us and have a similar afternoon at our National Centre of Excellence, which is Ripon Grammar School.
I wonder if that might be another one for another Tuesday night sport at some point, stool ball, if we can find any North Yorkshire connection at all to go with that. That'd be quite an interesting one.
Well, when we get them up here, I'll let you know as well.
Yeah, do. That could be quite interesting just to see what all that's about. Long term then, Paul, this sport that you had the concept with a couple of others as well, obviously, but you were one of the founders of this sport. It's growing, you're getting into other countries as well, you're starting to get outside North Yorkshire. Long term, what would you like to see for VX? Well,
I'd like to see it as an Olympic sport, obviously. But you have to be on 4 continents, which we are. You have to be in 75 countries, which we're not. And those 75 countries have to be playing to a national championship standard, which they obviously aren't because we're not in 75 countries. And even then, you're not guaranteed to be an Olympic sport. I mean, netball's not, is it?
Netball's not, no.
Yeah, so it isn't going to happen in my lifetime, but quite simply, we're leaving a legacy.
Do you think Commonwealth Games is more realistic?
Yeah, or the Special Olympics for a start.
Mm. How popular is it? Just final question before I let you go, and thank you for joining us this evening. How popular is it with the disability element of, you mentioned about the wheelchair side of it?
Every time we try it, it has its usual impact, no matter which group we do it with. Wheelchairs are a community group. We did one with a community link in Ripon, I think it was called, and there was a wide range of abilities there, from some people in a wheelchair, some people having to be led round, and other people that could cope quite well independently. And I got a lovely letter from the tutor who said she'd not seen them all involved like that ever.
Incredible. So just remind us one more time, if anybody does want to get involved, no matter what level, what's the best way they can go about it?
Easiest thing is to look on vxinternational.com and give me a shout.
Brilliant. Paul Hildreth, founder of VX, thank you for coming in this evening and joining us on Tuesday Night Sport. It's BBC Radio York Sport. It's Tuesday night with you until 9 o'clock. More to come in the next hour.